Hey, welcome to Speechless. We are live from the studios at SPNN, St. Paul Neighborhood Network. And it is a call-in show, and we got a number down on the graphics that you can call in, but we don't hear our phone ringing at all. So if you're gonna call in, we got to look at a green button, and if it's flashing, we may catch it, we may not. So just keep trying. See whatever happens. So we'd be glad to get your comments or questions that you have. If you're looking for Bob Zick's Inside Insight, well, he's on a sabbatical and I'm filling in for him. Only we're using the name of my show, which is Speechless. So glad to have you here. Before we have our guest, former mayor of Maplewood, Diana Longrie, on, where we got a fantastic discussion about the suppression of communication to the Maplewood City Council. I've been watching, and I'm sure many of you have been watching, the Supreme Court nomination process of Judge Gorsuch, and what I have been found fascinating is an issue I've been pushing for quite a while that I think has become one of the biggest issues at this hearing, and that is cameras in the courtroom. You have Amy Klobuchar, the Minnesota senator, you have Chuck Grassley, the Iowa senator, you have Cornyn, the Texas senator, you have a couple other senators. One senator said they didn't like it, but that was their priority. But what bothered me is they were asking Gorsuch, you know, will you support this? What will you do about this? And of course, he wouldn't comment on that. But he did say he hadn't even considered it at all. Of course, in federal courts, you don't have cameras in the courtroom. And evidently, nobody was complaining down there in the 10th Circuit. But I'm going to be doing a show on that, laying out the legal arguments for and against cameras in the courtroom, which I really don't think there are any against it that are any viable, but there are reasons that people say we shouldn't have cameras in the courtroom. And it's interesting to note, how could a justice like Justice Souter say, over my dead body will we have cameras at the Supreme Court? You know, where you get all these professionals that have no problem being on TV and sharing their opinions. Why can't we have it there? It's just bizarre to me. So that will be in an upcoming show here. Also, we have if you remember the T-shirt case where in Minnesota somebody went in and had a T-shirt and had a symbol on it, and that person was threatened with not voting, that wouldn't be able to vote because of that T-shirt, because it implied a symbol. Well, that case is now getting ready to be filed before the U.S. Supreme Court. So we'll have an update on that in a bit. Well, now I want to have my guest, Diana Longrie, on the show, former mayor of Maplewood. And we've been having some fascinating things going on in Maplewood, to say the least, about censorship, in my opinion. But before we get into that, you've had some pretty active conversation going on with, you call it a lawsuit against Representative Peter Fischer?
That's correct, and I want to thank you, Mr. Kinley, for having me on the program this evening to talk about first the settlement of my lawsuit, as well as talking about this very disappointing and I want to say something stronger, like revolting actions of the Maplewood City Council that happened just about a week ago or so. Yeah. And we're going to talk about that. But I want to first talk about the lawsuit that I had. Back in 2015, I was running for office in Maplewood. And during that election, there was a smear campaign, if I may call it that, that made certain allegations against me. Allegations that, first of all, are not true and they're defamatory. And I felt it was important to clear my good name. I'm a neighborhood attorney
Right.
in Maplewood. I do a lot of work for people who have limited financial resources, that are immigrants to our country, that, you know, people who have no one else to be their voice in court. And
I can verify that. I mean, I've
yes,
seen
you have
your
gone to-
clients, and I have
Yes,
referred clients to you.
That's right, and you have actually gone to some of the court proceedings
Right.
of some of my clients, because they were folks who needed that extra support mechanism and support system of people in the courtroom. And by the way, I do support cameras in the courtroom. I think that
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
I think it would resolve a number of different issues, but that's for a different
Okay,
show.
different show,
But
absolutely.
I felt that I was not going to stand by as my name and my reputation was being smeared in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sued Peter Fischer and Tu Zhang's sister, Stacy Zhang, in district court for defamation per se. And that is a type of defamation. Particularly because I felt that the allegations made against me had a clear bearing upon what is expected for the values that an attorney in their profession will hold.
Right.
Because we as attorneys are required to take continuing legal education credits in the elimination of bias.
Right.
And being aware of that, and working with people of all walks of life, and not being prejudicial. And I pride myself in not being prejudicial. And so I felt that what they were doing, which I'm not going to say what they were doing because I'm not going to republish it.
Oh, okay.
You see what I mean?
Right,
But-
okay.
but
Well,
the
then I
thing
won't
is-
ask the question,
No.
I guess. But
Yeah, but they were indeed things that the values, certain values that I think people would look
Well,
for
if
in
you-
an attorney.
if you were on the bar, I mean, if you would have, a complaint would have been filed against you for the reasons they were saying, the things you were doing or implying you were doing, your license could have been in trouble.
Well, certainly I might be called into question as to why I was undertaking such type of activity. That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. And so anyway, as many cases go, of course, you don't necessarily always get to trial, and that's okay, because sometimes working it out through mediation is a more preferable way. And so we actually have settled our
Okay.
case, and we went to mediation. And Mr. Peter Fischer, because of where those statements were published on both Facebook and in the Maplewood Lily Review,
And he also spoke at the Maplewood City Council and visitors presentation and made his comments there.
That's true. That's true. And but we know we have the written word for sure that is easy to document.
Right.
Certainly in court documents, it's always easy to say, okay, here's what the post is. You know. But anyway, but
Right.
we've come to a resolution, and the resolution, in part, was that he had to publish a statement on both Facebook and also 3 consecutive weeks in the Maplewood Lily Review.
Oh, wow.
And this is the notice, and you'll find it actually in the legal notices section, because
Okay.
it is a resolution of a lawsuit, but it's under notice. In 2015, certain comments on Facebook and in the Lily News Maplewood Review were published regarding then candidate Diana Longrie's campaign literature. While I supported, meaning Peter Fischer, while I supported other candidates in that election, Diana Longrie herself is a valued member of our community and who helps and provides legal representation to individuals from all walks of life. Representative Peter Fischer.
Wow.
And so I certainly am very satisfied by the resolution. I believe that it takes care of my concerns that I had and how the impact of their statements in the community would have against me. And, you know, I hope that Mr. Fischer and I can resolve this breach of trust that's occurred now, considering the fact that we're both DFL delegates.
Right.
So, you know, even people within parties fight.
It should be known that people within parties fight. Not even people. People within parties fight.
That's
There's
right.
always a battle going on.
That's right, exactly.
So, I mean, that's a pretty big statement and pretty profound that
Yeah.
that took place. Plus, you got $1 million with that,
No,
too.
no. And see, and that's the thing I've had, you know,
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm kidding.
Well, you know,
I don't even know what you got.
You know, some
but I
of
don't
my-
think, anyway.
No. Well, you know, some of my clients and some of my friends really felt that there should have been a larger monetary settlement, but that wasn't what it was about for
Right.
me. It was about my name and my reputation in the community and having that repaired.
Right.
And that's what was important to me, because money cannot repair your reputation, especially when what they published was false.
Right.
See, and that is something that must be stressed.
Right.
What they published was false.
Right.
Yes.
And really knew it to be false, in my opinion.
I think so too.
Oh,
But thank
well,
you.
that's- Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So it's already come out once.
Well, this
Or the-
week is now the third week.
This is the third
Right,
week. Okay.
yeah, the third week.
So
yes.
third and final.
And it has already been published on Facebook.
All right. So we'll transition here. Now, Peter
Yes.
Fischer went to visitors' presentation in Maplewood, made some statements, like has been the history. And now Maplewood is saying no more.
Well, and keep in mind, when I was mayor of Maplewood, we had a lot of people who came before us and spoke at visitor presentations. In front of other city councils or school boards, it's probably called public comment.
Right.
You know, and so people sometimes get confused. What does it mean, visitors? Well,
Right.
okay, in Maplewood, if you live there and you're a resident and you want to talk to the council,
You're
a visitor. Rather than a resident and a constituent, you are a visitor.
Yeah.
Kind of tells you about that mindset. But the point is that we had many people when I was mayor that would come before the council. Some were positive, some were negative, but you know, in the end, even if they were very negative, you always said, thank you for your comments, thank you for coming forward, because maybe there was something in what they said
Right.
that you still could take away from it and say, okay, now let me do a little introspection here and
Right.
think about, okay, maybe I can do a better job on recognizing this or that or the other thing.
Did you guys have a time limit as far as
Well,
how long people
yeah.
could speak?
You know, see that I have mixed feelings on that, because when I started as mayor, I had no time limit.
Okay.
We had it at the beginning of the meeting. I
Right.
had no time
So it
limit.
was a time certain almost.
It was a time certain, people could come. I figured that the average person could say what they needed to say within 3 to 5 minutes. They didn't need me to be policing them. And if they were going to go on for 10 minutes,
Like
well then,
Kathleen Juneman would when she'd go to,
yeah, the
visitors'
council member,
presentation.
yes,
she'd
exactly.
go 9-10 minutes, you know.
Exactly. And so I always thought, you know, people can police themselves and they don't need me to be looking at a clock. There's nothing more rude than your elected official looking at the clock while you are speaking to them during public comment. Really, truly. And that
Yeah.
happens all the time. And in Maplewood, it's very easy to see that that's what's going on, because they're either looking at the timer and you can see their eyes shift to look
Right.
at the clock,
Right.
or that they're looking at the clock on the wall and their eyes go up over your head. And so you know they're looking at the clock. It's a dead
And they're
giveaway.
not listening, right?
Yeah, it's a dead giveaway. And so and then it turned out that because people felt that it was, because there were too many people coming before us when I was mayor, that we needed to limit it in some manner. So rather than saying, okay, just the first 20 minutes or whatever, we said limit it 5 minutes to each person.
Okay.
So,
and most people can get what they need to say within that 5-minute time frame.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
You know, if they've prepared, and if they haven't prepared, 5 minutes is probably good enough.
Well, that's right, and certainly the mayor, as the chair of the meeting, has that prerogative. If it looks like somebody really is like in the middle of a thought that is new and wants to give them that time to finish it, they can allow them that extra courtesy of doing so, rather
Right.
than saying your time
Well-
is up, you're dismissed.
Well, let's say, did you put about a 30-minute time limit on the whole visitors
We
presentation?
actually didn't put
do that?
any
Okay.
time limit at all, because
So-
I figured if people came to their council meeting, they came there to be part of that process.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I welcome, because unlike many people who maybe are looking at public office in a different perspective than I do, I see it as an opportunity for elected people to open up the door to their citizens to be able to participate in the process. And so, yes, our meetings went on longer, but that's because every agenda item, we opened it up for public to be able to speak.
Every agenda item?
Every agenda item.
Even new business?
Even new business.
Wow.
Because we felt that somebody might come to the council meeting and they didn't have it on their mind, this agenda item. But after hearing the comments
Right.
of the council, after hearing the report of the staff, after reading the packet in the back of the book, they may have input as a resident, as a citizen of Maplewood, to say, well, what about this?
Right.
And oftentimes people did, and people came to our meetings because they knew they would be recognized to participate.
Right.
And that's why our meetings went longer.
Just
is
like at the
because-
legislature.
Because they
People-
got to participate.
Right.
And that was one of the things I loved the most about being the mayor of Maplewood, was being able to find avenues so that people could truly participate in what we were doing, because we're not gods.
Right.
We're just trying to be their mouthpiece. And how can we be their mouthpiece
Yeah.
if we don't know what
Well-
they have on their mind?
Well, let's say one or two people came during visitors' presentation. Then you were a little more flexible to give them more time.
Sure.
Rather than
Yeah.
what Maplewood was doing before they closed it down temporarily. As I say, a separation leads to a divorce, but rarely
Yes.
does it not.
Yes.
You can, if there's only one person, well, you can give them more time. You know, but this Maplewood City Council, 3 minutes, you're done. Did you
Yeah.
even hear a thing I said?
Yeah, well, and
know?
and you know that there's something amiss when they don't even have eye contact with the people who are up at the lectern giving their 3 minutes worth of comments. They don't even look, or they're busy
Or they walk out.
whispering, or they're walking out. You know, Kathleen Juneman, Councilmember Kathleen Juneman, the longest standing member up there, you know, she'll walk out. She'll have said,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to hear these people. So then she just gets up and walks out.
Right.
Or, you know, or they're whispering to the city manager, to themselves, or looking down at the ground, or, you know, and then unfortunately it's very rude and disrespectful. And so it's bothersome to me. It really is bothersome in that it seems so far removed from what I, as a resident of Maplewood, want to see for my community. I
Yeah.
want to see an opportunity for grassroots participation, not just twice a year at some little town hall meeting.
Right.
I want to see it at every council meeting.
Right.
And you know, that was actually one of the reasons why I ran for mayor, was because the council back prior to 2005, they didn't open up the agenda items and take any comment on agenda items. you made your comments at the end of the meeting at this visitor presentations after all the votes were taken.
Right.
And I thought, this seems absolutely ridiculous to me,
Right.
that you're taking public comment after you already voted on everything. What's the point?
Right.
And that
Yeah.
is then what it reverted to after I was no longer mayor. That's what it reverted back to. Let's
Right.
just take comments at the end after we've taken all of our votes, because the residents, the citizens are just, you know, kind of inconsequential, and they're in the way. They mess up the business, and they won't let us do what we want.
And you know, and Nora Slawick was a state rep,
Yeah, the current mayor, that's right.
current mayor, and she knows how things are handled down there and how it goes smoothly, because there's this structure that anybody gets to come and talk. They do put time limitations on, but it's open to the public. They're public hearings in these committee rooms. And she knows that, and she knows how to do it, and she knows how to do it in a way that will run efficiently, although I don't know that she's ever been the chair of any committee, and therefore she
You know-
hasn't done it. But she knows the process very well, and could help people and educate people on that process.
Well, you know, you can get a lot of training through observation over 14 years, you know.
Some people can, yes, absolutely. So we got a lot of video.
Yes, we
Are
do.
we ready to go into that?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And a point before we get started on this that I want to make to our viewers, and I want them to contemplate this, is that the current City Council of Maplewood, they moved this comment period to the end of the meeting, so by the time it gets to be 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, you're going to be lucky if you find
Oh.
2 or 3 diehards that have stayed to the end of the meeting to say their couple of minutes worth of stuff after everything's been voted on. And so at the most, this part of the agenda takes from 0 to 12 minutes of the agenda time of the whole evening's worth of work. And the city council, they spend 44 minutes on the agenda item of how to determine how to eliminate this portion of their agenda, which typically only is taking up 0 to 12 minutes every meeting.
No,
Of a meeting that goes for hours.
Well, that's an interesting observation, because now that you mention it, I kind of think they've been shutting visitors' presentation down early.
They do.
You know, right in the middle of someone's speech, they'll just cut it off.
Right,
what
because-
they think are legitimate reasons.
Right, because they are also regulating content which is
Right.
unconstitutional.
Right.
Because they have these rules that say all these things that you cannot say and that you cannot talk about. And basically, as long as you say something nice about somebody, or you have something positive to say, or you have something that isn't in some way going to be taken by one of the thin-skinned representatives
Yeah.
as a slight against
Right.
them, well, then you're okay. You will be able to speak for your full 3 minutes. But if you somehow digress, they not only turn off your time, but they shut down the thing entirely so that everybody who's after you doesn't get to get up to say anything at all.
Right, and so therefore they got that they're going to stay within that 0 to 12 minute time frame.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They've already figured that out.
That's just speculation on my part, but it helped to get it that way. So the first thing I think we have is the new communications director, which is paid by closing down the cable public access part.
Right, exactly.
And moving it from Suburban Community Cable Commission over to the Maplewood now runs their cable operations themselves.
Yeah, the Maplewood pulled out of the Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Commission because they were going to do it better.
Right.
And so not only did they take with them the 10 public access cable channels for public use, including the government channel,
Yeah.
not only did they take 10 channels with them, but they also took a approximately $500,000 worth of Comcast subscribers' PEG fees. The Maplewood Comcast subscribers, their PEG fees, $500,000. And so Maplewood decided, oh, we're going to communicate better now with Maplewood residents. So we're going to start a new department called the Communication Department. We need to hire a communication director and a couple of other people underneath him to help him out. And here they've got 10 channels, and they're lucky if they have enough material to run on one.
Well, have they produced anything yet?
Not much.
And was this his first presentation to the city? I'm not sure, but I haven't seen him before.
You know, he was up before the council once before, but
Okay.
you know, I'm not really sure what he does, because the Maplewood Monthly, the newsletter
Right.
that comes out every month, it's getting thinner and thinner and thinner now that Maplewood had more money
But he's
for
responsible
communication.
for that too?
I thought so.
But didn't they have already somebody else there?
That they subcontract to, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that went away.
So I have no idea. No, they hire her
Oh,
yet
they
too.
still, okay,
Yeah, no, they got everybody.
All
They
right.
they hire everyone.
okay. Well, set up this video, we gotta get these shown
Yeah,
because we've got a lot of video.
okay, well, you know, it's such a it's a topic that could go on for weeks.
Right.
But, yes, well, they're talking about the fact that, you know, obviously the council has been complaining behind the scenes. So a couple of the city staff, together with this new communications director, which, by the way, used to work for the Maplewood Lily Review,
Oh.
who knows exactly what the byline is that Maplewood wants to have in
Sure.
their propaganda.
Right.
Anyway, they got together and they are thinking of how are they going to solve the council's problem of visitor presentations.
Right,
So-
okay, let's see the first video.
With some scenarios for you to review regarding comments with the public here at meetings. We wanted to give you a number of scenarios. Ron has significant experience, obviously, with in his role with cities, and then I brought in some of the experience that I had covering a lot of different communities in my newspaper career.
So that, of course, is the gentleman I was talking about. And of course, one of the staff people that they brought in was the city attorney and Melinda Coleman, the city manager, and then this gentleman here.
Okay.
So, and think about the context of how he says this is that your communication is with this visitor presentations, you know, it's very derogatory. I mean,
Right.
obviously,
Right.
he is molding his words to be consistent with what he has heard the council emote
Right.
about
That's a good
visitor
word.
presentations.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
so he's
absolutely.
being consistent with their feelings so that they will like him.
Right.
I mean, that's natural. I mean,
Right.
that's the way it works. So I would say let's go to the next
Okay,
clip.
let's go.
Each of these scenarios are some things that we have seen before and are effective. And our goal really was just to give you as many scenarios as we could as you make a decision moving forward on how you want to engage with the public.
Yeah, so they give like 6 scenarios,
Right.
but even looking at those scenarios, you can combine,
Yeah.
you could have had 500 different scenarios.
Right. And it's telling to me, though, what he talks about the goal. Because really, these scenarios, as you said, can be mix and match. But what's really most important is the goal. What
Right.
is their goal?
Right.
Their goal is to decide how they want to engage with the public.
Right.
That is exactly what he said.
Yes.
How you want to engage with the public. Now that's very self-centered. And it doesn't have anything to do with
huge.
how can the public engage with you. Right.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Absolutely.
Man, that's just, it's a backwards thinking.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
We're the sovereigns, we're the kings, we rule over the people, and your input you know what? We're gonna define our engagement with you.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
We're gonna control the scenario in which you can engage with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very, very demeaning, definitely. So.
Yeah, I mean, it puts all the rest of this in total perspective, especially when you start hearing some of the way that the council people talk about it.
And this is all a pretense.
Yes.
For them to look like we've explored all these options,
Mm-hmm.
we've seen them all laid out, and this is the best solution, which is the solution we wanted from the beginning.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's watch the next video here.
Okay.
City Manager Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Slawik, members of the City Council. Once again, Ron and George and I met based on some conversations that I had with most of you individually to talk about how we can better engage our residents in our council meeting process and to hear from neighbors to bring forth issues or concerns that they might have. And I will stand up here and say that I believe we do a really excellent job of responding to our residents. I think I really commend the council. You are right on things when you get the emails, and we help you when we need to. And I think we do a good job, but can we do that better here? And what does that look like? Should we be having a visitor presentation?
You get the same storyline, excellence in responding to residents, but I can tell you.
And she says, you know, how can we get residents to engage in the city council process?
Right.
Well, you know, unless they're planning on having a live chat line going on at the same time the council meeting's going on, people appearing in person at a council meeting is the first step in getting citizens to engage in the city council process.
Right. So let's cut them off altogether.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know, let's take a sabbatical here for a little bit. That will engage them more.
That's right.
That will get them engaged. But I don't remember a single time of any city council member, after any comments I made at city council, them coming up to me and saying, boy, let's look at that, or we got a problem here, or that's a good suggestion. None of them have ever engaged me that I know. Maybe Bob Cardinal, but that's because he's a friend and I know him.
Right.
But Kathleen Juneman, you know, Tu Zhang came and shook my hand, you know, same Brian Smith, but that was the first time I was meeting
Right.
him.
And of
You
course,
know, it
then-
wasn't.
Yeah, and at this council meeting, he then makes slurs against the people who go up
Right.
at visitor presentations saying that they're a bunch of crybabies.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh.
And so whether he shook your hand that first time he was there or not, I mean, that's not the proof in the pudding.
No.
And even if they didn't come up to you and say, well, that was a good idea, even this idea of engagement and say, you know, I understand your point, but this is why I believe differently, and this is why we have to do this as a city, or whatever, and just to come up to you and be able to have a conversation about the difference in opinion or difference in viewpoint, or to explain why maybe they have to do it a certain way that maybe you didn't know about.
Right.
That's part of that communication
Right.
that elected officials really should do with their constituents.
Right.
I mean, if you want your constituents to feel like they can find your city hall to be welcoming and open,
Right.
you're going to be like that. You're going to be welcome and opening.
Right. Whether you agree with them or not.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. All right, let's go to the next video.
So we, Ron and I and George came up with some options for you, and I'll go through those rather quickly, and then I'll tell you about community conversation comparison. I surveyed, I asked city managers throughout the area to comment on how they deal with this, and I got 17 responses, and that was put on the dais before you, so you can see that for comparison reasons.
All right, so they did a survey. Big deal. You know, it's kind of like the survey they did of community centers and how they were doing financially when I already told them. I mean, none of them are making it financially. None of them are breaking even. Why do you need to go out and construct a survey? So why do you need a survey of what other cities are doing? What about your own city?
And here's the
It doesn't matter.
The other thing about it is that Melinda Coleman has been, as city manager, she's been in municipal governance for oodles of years. Why is it that she doesn't already know the different types of options of things of what people have done?
Right.
Because they chat about this at their city manager conferences. I
Right.
mean, they talk about all
This
these.
is not new.
This is
has
not
gone
new.
on for long, long times.
Absolutely.
And Kathleen Juniman's been at all of them, and she has been trying to reduce the visitor's presentation, and she's seen
Absolutely.
all the options, so they know what they want.
And what's fascinating is that Miss Melinda Coleman didn't once say what they do in her town of Matamidi.
Oh, really?
Wouldn't that be nice to know what they do in her town?
Wow.
And is she looking to have the residents of Maplewood have something different and less than what she herself enjoys in her own community of Matamidi? Now, I would like to know that.
That's very good. Well, I'm gonna send them this video. They need to see it. All right, let's see the next clip.
Within this proposal, we would also recommend that we would not allow people to sign up for others for a speaking spot. And on the back of the attachment I sent you, there's a really nifty sign-up sheet that one of the communities use, and I highly recommend we adopt that. I think it's really excellent. It also requires name, address, phone number, and the topic that they want to talk about. And so I think that's a really good idea or something for you to consider. Council could also discuss whether to have cameras broadcast this on or off for that portion of the meeting. So that's option one.
Wow, it sounds like they're really looking at how can we do some censorship here? Why do they need to know the topic?
Well, and because you may be at the council meeting halfway through, think of another idea since you heard something at the council meeting and you couldn't get up to speak at the time and you want to talk about it now.
Right, so let's say you only use a minute of your time, you got 2 minutes left, you got time to speak about this new topic. Are
Sure.
they gonna let you speak about it
I don't know.
or not?
And this issue about not having it on camera, you know, I think public comment should always be on camera. And here's why. Because if you want to encourage civic engagement, the best way to do that is so that people who are at home watching the other residents of their community making comment, they're at home going, wow, I agree with that, I disagree with that, or whatever, so that they have this feeling that somebody else is out there talking too about civic issues of importance at the local level. And so if you say, we're not going to televise them or cable cast them anymore, then nobody knows what anybody else in the community is talking about. It's a great way to keep everybody dislocated and disjointed from each
Right,
other so they
right.
can't band together with a common purpose, a
Right.
common good for something for their own community.
Right.
It's a way to break them up so that they cannot have a grassroots organization.
For good or against what the city council's doing.
Right.
People will see other people on the visitor's presentation and they'll go, oh boy, that's a good idea. I need to go down there and support that individual.
Right.
For the good idea it is, or for the bad idea that
Right.
it is. Because I don't like the direction of Maplewood City Council.
And you know, as
What's wrong with that?
Right, and as a former mayor, I mean, I saw it work both for and against me, this grassroots type of activism.
Well, and you had a split council.
That's right.
But
and
they have a unanimous council, so
Right.
it doesn't matter what anybody says, they got the 5-0 vote.
Exactly, and I still, even if I went through that experience of finding that grassroots activism sometimes works for you as an elected official and sometimes it works against you as an elected official, I still support it because that is what makes our democracy.
Right.
It isn't about the elected official remaining in power.
Right,
It's not about that.
right, well, not
Well,
For them it is.
yeah, that's, for them.
But
is,
it
that's
shouldn't
right.
be.
It
All right,
shouldn't be,
let's
that's
take the
right.
next video.
I've been wondering, why do we do so much videotaping? I happen to like the idea of videotaping our commissions, because I think that that helps me. If I have another meeting to go to and I miss a commission meeting, then I always I can watch it on TV. I don't know why our workshops are videotaped. I mean, that doesn't make any sense for me. It also seems like a cost-saving measures. I know that there are a number of city councils that don't videotape even their council meetings, let alone they don't do any of their commissions and workshops. Why in the world would they do workshops? They don't do anything. So I think that we over-videotape, and I'd like to see us include that discussion as part of this so that we can kind of shrink that down into something that makes more sense. And, if we had a public comment, and I kind of like that, public comment opportunity, the first, I don't care which one, the first Monday or the second Monday of the month or the fourth Monday of the month, one time each month, we have, residents come in for a public comment. I really like this sign-up sheet. I think that this is a really good idea. I also, because it's a set time, and I think we're more inclined to open it up to some people, it's not videotaped, it's the end of our workshop, and I think that I certainly want to leave that as a venue for people because, I looked back at the back of my my packet.
All right.
That's
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's Councilmember Marley Abrams, and this whole idea about let's step backwards and stop cable casting the workshops is
Well, the workshops.
is ludicrous. That's where the work is done.
It's preliminary to a vote at the city council meeting. And you can then see all their thinking behind it. That's when they choose their people to come and give the case for what they want to have happen at the workshop. It's not or at the city council meeting, it's not a dialogue pro and con. Sometimes it is, but mostly it's there to build their agenda and consensus for the city council meeting.
Exactly, and what typically happens at a workshop, and that's why the people in North St. Paul want their workshops cable cast, is exactly for this reason, is that there's all this discussion going on at the workshop, because the vote can't be taken there, but they have all this discussion, the staff give all the reports, everybody pulls it apart, and it's a work session, okay? And then when they get to the council meeting, they go, oh, we discussed this at the workshop.
Right.
And here is the motion. We're not going to go into it and talk anymore about it because we did all that at the workshop.
Right.
And so here you are as a resident, if you only get to watch the council meeting on your cable cast, you're going, what was the discussion? I don't know what it was because you couldn't watch the workshop. It wasn't cable cast.
Yeah.
And so you can see again, this is very self-centered from her part. She wants it so she can watch the commission meetings because she missed them. She couldn't attend all of them, so she can watch it in the comfort of her home. But then when it comes to the residents wanting to be able to have the same luxury, well, if they want to hear it, they got to come down to City Hall and watch it in person.
Right.
Well, that to me
Again, the selfish motive as to what do I get out of this?
Right.
Rather
And she's
than what
an
does the
attorney.
community get out of this?
And she's an
Well,
attorney,
Yeah,
a skilled litigator, and this is how she believes.
right.
I don't know. It's beyond me. I thought attorneys are supposed to be fighting for the little guy. I don't know.
Well, they're a fight for everybody, and they should be fighting for public disclosure of everything.
Absolutely.
So, but one of the council members was not real happy about visitors' presentation at all. Didn't find them productive. So we got some video of Brian Smith, so let's see that video.
Option
Nope.
2 would be to eliminate the public comment or component completely. There's no legal requirement for us to have a comment session during meetings. If the council chose this option, we could create several new avenues for public input. We already
All right.
And so that, of course, was option number 2. Let's just eliminate it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, which option do you think they really want, right? That's right. Well, and so there are some clips of Councilmember Brian Smith, who was
Okay.
very, very disdainful. And I believe that there's like 4 clips of those that
Okay.
are in the 25, 20, 21, 22 range. And I think they speak for themselves.
Yeah, I was shocked at what he was saying. Let's see what Brian Smith has to say.
And I always say to my wife, you know, what I try to remember is that they're really here to yell at the chair, not at me. It doesn't really matter who's sitting in this chair, whether it's me, whether it's any of my colleagues, whether it's someone who may get elected in the next election. This same group, small group of residents, is going to come in and abuse whoever is here every meeting. And it's ridiculous. It's embarrassing for the rest of our city, and I'm done with it. I'm done with treating me with disrespect, treating my colleagues with disrespect, treating our staff with disrespect, and never having any sort of viable solution or positive input into what we're talking about. There's no value. It's a waste of everybody's time. And it only is really serving to serve the needs of those people who feel the need to come in and feel important during that time and make those comments at the expense of others. So I don't really see any value in what we've been doing. I don't see it. I'm going to make a small group of people really angry, and that's okay with me. Now, where I struggle is, if we stop doing this, am I throwing the baby away with the bathwater, right? Are we closing off people who do have legitimate concerns and want to come talk to us? And that's always been my worry. And I do think we need to find other ways to get those folks to engage with us, to talk with us. Now, you know what? I get emails all the time. I get phone calls.
Oh, man. I mean, in my opinion, he was being abusive himself there.
Well, and it also goes to that issue of, he said, that have legitimate concerns. Who is he to decide what is a legitimate concern?
And no viable solutions.
Right, because here is a great example, is that recently Maplewood just had a work group, the Police Use of Force Work Group.
Right.
It met for 4 months, every week, almost every week. And I came before the council several times telling the council what good work this work group was doing, but that this work group should be cable cast so that everybody in Maplewood is able to view the work that this work group was doing on police use of force. And that, by the way, it is inconsistent with the open meeting law that they meet behind locked doors. And that the viable solution to all of this would be to bring it out to the council chambers, turn on the cameras, and unlock the doors.
Right.
Because they're
Right.
holding public meetings behind locked doors for 4 months.
Right.
Now that's what Brian Smith is upset about.
Just
Because
that?
because
Yeah.
it was brought to the attention of people watching the council meeting that these violations were going on.
And when a council member doesn't want the people to hear things or criticism, that means they're doing something wrong. They're doing something they know they shouldn't be doing, in my opinion. They think something, they don't want to be exposed. Well, in one sense, we really don't know, but in my opinion, that's what's going on here. They know they're being exposed for things that they shouldn't be doing, that they have problems. I got, at least 5, 6 issues that over the years that citizens have raised to the Maplewood City Council, like property tax assessments that were being done fraudulently, that Maplewood City Council got sued on. The city got sued on.
Right, the street special assessments, yeah.
And the city lost.
Right.
Harassment restraining orders where the city lost. in my understanding of that
Yeah.
case. The
I know two cases like that, and
Yeah.
the city lost both times, yes.
And the city knew they were wrong to pursue these,
Right,
and they did it anyway.
right. It was a way to bully
Bully
residents.
people. There was an ambulance fund that is still financially insolvent and spending a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the black. The Maplewood Community Center, people were raising that issue. I was raising that issue as about how it wasn't being funded and it was costing the taxpayers money and they couldn't use it. Therefore, you know, the city council tried to do something with it. I don't think their solution was viable. My solution was sell the place, get the building on the tax rolls, let people who know how to run a business run this business. City council, you don't know how to do that. Fire stations closing, bonding for the police station, and then police use of force. All those were brought together and brought forward by the citizens that the city didn't want you to know about.
Right.
And the city didn't want to hear about.
Right, exactly. And that's why it is not only disappointing to me, but just really very distasteful, this type of action that they're taking, because it is inconsistent with public service.
Right.
To the citizens that they represent.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's play the next video we got.
We do have those records, and
I-
I was just doing kind of a brain thing for myself today, talking to someone else about how many times we had someone other than the usual 5 or
Right.
6 people, and I can only think of 2.
But-
There's probably been a couple more, but one of them was around the school district referendum, and then there was another kind of just a question thing
But I-
about snow plowing on White Bear
Right.
Avenue or something.
So, but I think actually having that data to really look
We
and
can-
be
we
like,
can do
person
that.
X has been here
Yeah.
572 times, and person Y has been here 300 times, and all other people
Yeah.
combined have been here
And
7, or whatever
I
that is.
believe our minutes reflect who speaks. It doesn't talk to the content, but it does
Yeah,
have the speakers.
and we know what the content is.
Okay.
Wow.
I love that. We know what the content is. Oh my God, how demeaning is that? And I think that if you go back and look at the content of the people who spoke, it is different from time to time.
Right.
I know that I do not have the time to go up and say the same thing over and over and over again. And I don't go before them that often because I know they don't listen to me. So why do I bother?
Well, and
but
I
when
think
it
that's
comes
what
to
a lot of-
something like, violations of the open meeting law, maybe I might want to bring it to their attention so they can rectify it.
Right.
Because otherwise they're at the risk of litigation.
Well, and then people see how they treat us.
Right.
And I know one of the persons that they commented about the school. That person said, they know that the city council treats people bad, but did it anyway because she's tough.
Right.
She's a
Well,
tough person. She's willing to speak out.
And you
if
can't-
you're not that person,
Yeah, that's right. And you can't expect that people who have kids to put to bed, things to do to get ready for work at night, are going to be able to go to the council meeting and sit around till some unknown time when the council finally gets
Yeah.
to the last thing on the agenda.
And that's why you
so you
had-
can have
yeah.
your 3 minutes to speak.
and that's why you had more people coming during
Yes.
your time as mayor, is because you had it at the beginning. They know they could be there, that they can get in and get out, which seems to upset the city council that people would do that. They'd say their piece and leave.
Right.
Well, why aren't they around for the rest of it?
Well, and what I would like to say too is that I know when I was mayor, Mr. Peter Fischer came before our council, before he was a representative, numerous times, sometimes with positive things,
Yeah.
sometimes with negative things. Where is he now? Now that he's a representative, where is he now on this issue? When he utilized this forums himself,
exactly.
where is he
Good-
on this issue?
Good question. Well, let's go to the last video here
The
because we're
motion.
running out of time. The motion video.
But I think that
Is that it?
from my perspective, I would prefer to just do away with it, but at the same time,
All right, we want to get the last video there that says motion on it. Bring that one.
I move that we take a 3-month period of time to reassess our communication with, direct communication with citizens, be it oral, written, whatever it happens to be. But, and if we would choose to reinstate it as part of the agenda, that we would probably want to call it something like a listening session.
So to clarify, the motion is to take a 90-day break as we look for an alternative. Is that
Correct.
fair, Councilmember?
That's good. Okay, I'll second that.
So to clarify the motion, well, her motion was much more expansive than just limiting it to the visitor, quote-unquote, presentations. All communications with the residents of Maplewood.
Uh-huh.
All communications. That's what she said.
Right.
Wow. Wow.
All communications.
That's right.
We're gonna have to hold them to that. No emails, no phone calls.
I can tell you that I have film footage in my archives that prior to 2005, when Melinda Coleman was the assistant city manager, that she actually routinely reviewed the emails that residents sent the council people, and so there was not really any assurance as a resident that your email was being viewed by only the city council
Wow,
member.
you had that filter to the city council members.
Yep,
Wow.
Yep, and I've got that video that verifies that
That's something else.
in my archives.
So how much more time we got here? We're running short here. 1 minute, all right.
Wow.
So that's 1 minute for us talking or 1 minute total? 1 minute talking. 1.5, all right. Well,
But the subject's much more than that.
well, I think you've gotten a good overview of what's going on in the city of Maplewood, but Maplewood has been through this before, and they keep trying to make changes, and they keep coming back to, you know what, we better let the people talk. Why they always come back, why they always fight it and then come back, I don't know. Evidently they think it's going to stick this time, but it's not going to stick. I mean, it's
Yeah, Mayor Will Rosbach attempted in his fashion to limit the public comment period, to limit the
and
interaction.
that blew up on them
Oh,
because
yes, big
the
time.
cameras still got there because
Yes.
they can be, and he broke character. I can't say broke character because that's the way he is.
Yeah.
But he was yelling and screaming at people
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and accusing them and calling them liars and stuff like that.
And we
So,
have that in the video archives as well.
All right. Remember, if you don't stand up for other people's liberties, who's going to stand up for yours? And good men don't do nothing. Go out, talk to your city council. All right. Good night.